So I'm I have one of your images this morning of your beautiful strolls on Redcar Beach, and so please tell me a little bit about how you're involved in the creative arts in Redcar and the general Tees area.
Yeah, in Teesside more, I think I tend to sort of come into Middlesbrough Teesside when I'm involving myself with other people. It goes, but so I'm a poet, and I love to say that. I love to say that with a sense of confidence, because for years and years I had imposter syndrome. I didn't dare say I'm a poet. I would waffle around with, yeah, I write a bit of poetry sometimes, but because I think publication gives you confidence. So with the second pamphlet coming out, I feel, yeah, if I'm ever going to say I'm a poet, it's right now. So that's, and it's through the Middlesbrough Teesside scene, which is so vibrant and full of other people doing wonderful stuff. You can't help but feed off it and be involved in it. So, yeah.
Absolutely terrific. So, can you tell me a little bit about your upcoming book launch?
Yes, I'm really excited to be uh, jointly launching with Bob. And to be fair, it wouldn't have happened without Bob's organisation and approaching me. And there's a so my pamphlet is called Cheap Fish for Kings. Bob's is and then we saw The Daughter of the Minotaur, which is a beautiful piece of poetry, perfect for the moment, highlighting the fragility and the ephemeral nature of life and love. So I'm so pleased to be alongside that. My pamphlet was launched back in February, it was published. Then came lockdown. And
Tricky time to
yeah,
be launching something.
absolutely. And for me, that spoken word, oral tradition is what counts. The publications give you confidence, but I don't go into it thinking I'm going to sell millions of books and get very rich. That isn't poetry. But holding the book in your hand and standing up and sharing it at an event with people is where I get my thrills from poetry. Um, that's not happened for this. And only through this launch with Bob on Monday at 7 p.m. Uh,
So
is
for the historic record, that's going to be Monday,
24th of August.
Monday the 24th of August, 2020.
Mm-hmm. And that will be Zoom. And if all the people who've clicked going actually come, probably we'll reach more people. But though it's wonderful and though I'm excited to do it, it's not the same as being in a room with people.
Yeah, I think of all the creative arts, poetry has mainly maybe suffered the most. I think theatre has adapted really well to Zoom, particularly because the actors have worked out they don't actually need to learn their lines; they can have it on
All right.
them, and no one knows.
Yeah.
But I think music has suffered, but you can kind of perform in your own front room to a certain extent. It's not the same. It's not the same, but
Not the same.
I just think poetry is so one. It's kind of you need a personal audience there. It's really hard to get poetry across on just by sat in your own front room.
You need to look into the eyes of the people. Until I still get very nervous. Standing up at a mic is quite a big deal for me. But to stand there and look into someone's eyes and know they've got what you're talking about, it's just the most amazing feeling. And you can't get that with Zoom. You really can't. And again, as a member of an audience, I also enjoy listening to other people and to look back at the poet and let them know. Just, I must say this about Bob, the first time, so through workshops and all sorts of things, I go back with Bob a long way. So it's lovely that we're doing this together. And the first time I ever stood up at a mic, I will never forget. Bob was in the audience and I remember him nodding. And I thought, you understand what I'm getting at. And that nod meant so much to me. And a nod from an audience member is what it's all about.
So can you tell me how long ago that was when you first stood up at a mic, how you got to be there when you started writing poetry, and what inspired you to do so in the first place?
Mhm. Uh, well, the very beginning was my own love of poetry right from a small child. My mother left school at 14 and worked in a factory, but she loved poetry, and rather than reading stories to us, she would read poetry at bedtime. So I've grown up with this, and she was of that generation who could learn, who knew the classic poets, and she would throw out lines. Oh, we've got to tidy up. This house is like the wreck of the Hesperus. It was never a formal thing, but poetry has always been there in my life. And I hit a point where I was a full-time carer. I'd given up my job and I needed something for me. And I didn't know, the idea of me writing poetry was just sort of so far out of my head. But it was 2014. It was a time when, I'm not even sure if it was called something different, when the Crossing the Tees Festival was fully funded and everything was free. And there was this big book of stuff you could do for free, creative things that anybody could take part in. It was an amazing time. And there were all these Teesside writers doing workshops. Again, going back to Bob, this irony, Bob Beagrie and Andy Willoughby were offering free poetry workshops. And I thought, do you know what? I want something for me. I'm going to go to this. So I got ready to go to Bob's workshop, got actually as far as the back gate and thought, what do you think you're doing? You can't write poetry. So I went home.
Oh,
But fortunately for me, I do talk to myself a lot. I get myself a talking to, and Andy was doing a workshop the next day. And so I got over it and I went to Andy's workshop, and I have been to many of Andy Willoughby's workshops since. Out of the work with Andy originally came my first pamphlet, Underhedge Dapple. And because Teesside is full of people who write poetry and do wonderful workshops, I've never done anything formal. I just hang around with people who've got MAs in creative writing, do their workshops and listen to them, and sort of bits rub off. And that's what I've done ever since.
that's amazing. That's a fantastic story of your journey over the past 6 years, coming to this point where you're having, you're in there with Bob Beagrie in this fantastic book launch.
It's unbelievable to me, I have to say. When I look back on the journey, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, same for me. I mean, I am one of these people with an MAs, but
exactly.
Ludicrous for me. I'm the first person of my family to ever go to university, and yeah, I was stay-at-home mummy. We moved up here when I was 8 months pregnant, and I kind of thought my whole life was over, that I would just be doing that from now on. And yeah, and again, huge influence on that that Bob and Andy have had. And as you say, it's difficult, isn't it, to have that confidence to call yourself a writer and to think that you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's yeah, I mean, I remember the first time I ever stepped up and did open mic, and it was terrifying, and I still get shaky. I much prefer to learn my poems, because if I have a piece of paper, the paper will shake. But if the paper isn't there, then I feel much more confident in performing it.
No, I'm the opposite, because if I know the poem, but if I don't have the paper in my hand, I don't have the confidence that I know the poem. I need the paper in my hand, but I very often don't need to look at it. But
I do the same. Yeah, I take it up with me, but hope not to look at it at all. So can you tell me some of the venues and events that you've performed at in Teesside?
Yes, yeah. The Blacklight Engine Room spoken word night has been key. It's been my go-to place, and all the poets I've met there with PA Morbid organising it has been a confidence builder for me, an absolute confidence builder. I have sort of milled in with the creative writing students from Teesside through Andy and Bob. I remember seeing you for the first time at one of those student events, the final performance at one of those events at Mima. That's where I first saw Julie Easley, and I remember saying to Julie Easley, you are really good. You're going to go places. And Julie is now hosting Diverse. So there were two venues that, for the Diverse Poetry Nights. Sadly, can be no more because Apples and Snakes have withdrawn from the Northeast. But so I have been many times to the Saltburn one just because it's nearest. There was a very successful one at Hope and Union run by Sarah Crookwell in Stockton too. So Diverse Poetry Nights have been amazing for me because it gave women a platform and a confidence, and indeed anybody who felt that their voice wasn't being heard in mainstream. Anybody had the chance to get up there and do it. And I do believe that Julie Easley is going to try and do something independently in Saltburn along similar lines, but it was so brilliant when the funding was there from Apples and Snakes. I've done lots of stuff with Tees Women Poets, from the support and confidence building which that gives to its members. Again, that was funded by Apples and Snakes, but Sherston Luckins has taken it forward independently, and hopefully we'll be getting funding. The group is still strong and together. Focus on spoken word. And again, I wouldn't have believed that I could ever stand up at a mic. And without Tees Women and the theatre skills we've been given, the confidence through those workshops, yeah, there's lots going on Teesside, or was. It's fluid, isn't it? Things come and things go. And Zoom more recently, I suppose lockdown has given some opportunities, because I wouldn't have travelled to London, for instance, to do poetry nights, but I've been working on a virtual Poetry Sundays workshop with Dan Simpson, poet Dan Simpson. And I find, this sounds very old-fashioned of me, like I'm amazed by the internet, but we've been there every Sunday afternoon during lockdown with poets from the north of Scotland, Newquay, London. He's there in London hosting it all, and we've met people, and poetry has zoomed up and down the country, literally zoomed up and down the country, and been shared by people who would never have met each other. And through that, I became involved in a slam competition with Dan Simpson through his work with Imperial College, because they're trying to put poetry and science together. And we did lots of nature stuff, and I did the science of nature. So there have been opportunities in lockdown which broaden horizons, I think, as well.
Yeah, for me as well. I mean, I have my monthly multimedia cabaret club, which obviously has been run via Zoom, and again, still, I try and make sure it's got very much a Teesside focus, but it means that I can bring in people from all around the world. My friend Alan Cox acted live and direct from LA one night.
Amazing.
And so it has, but I think most people have got Zoom exhaustion now, and we just really want to get out there, even if it's a really small event. We just need to see each other face to face. I've been running my new radio show from the Auxiliary, like a kind of parents' evening. I have 5 guests in total, and they all sit in the other rooms, social distance from one another, and I call them in one by one.
Right.
And for me and most of my guests on there, it's been the first bit of out social interaction that we've had since lockdown, and so well needed. And it's been an absolute joy. and it's great to see Basecamp are finding a way to open up. Pineapple Black has found a way to open up. The Auxiliary is coming back. I do fear for the smaller venues like Disgraceland. As you say, Julie's managing to stage a kind of outside diverse. So hope is on the horizon. I just hope that, you know, we do continue to claw our way out of this and get another. And but in the meantime, at least we do have Zoom, and I do hope that plenty of people tune in on Monday and
thank you,
experience the launch of your books. I certainly look forward to it, and thank you for sparing the time to speak to me today, Janet.
It's been wonderful, and good luck with everything you're doing, because it's all really exciting. You're bringing Teesside together, so it's great. Thank you, Lisa.
Brilliant. Thanks, Janet. Take care. See you Monday.
Bye.